As we continue with our series, Family Matters, if you remember very well, we learned that actually the relationship between the husband and the wife is crucial to the home. And we learned that every family has a mission, and that mission must be discovered and implemented. We also learned that the mission cannot be effective if the relationships in the family are not good and healthy. We also learned yesterday that the mother is very, very important, if not the most important person at home. And we learned that without the mother at home, the home cannot be the same, especially as a wife also. And as a mother, you remember I said that if the husband is the head, what is the wife? The neck. That makes the head move. So husbands, treat your neck well if you want your head to move well. Family matters. Today's topic is entitled Me and My House. Me and My House. There is a Chinese philosopher who said, if you know when you have enough, you are wealthy. If you carry your intentions to completion, you are resolute. If you live a long and creative life, you will leave an eternal legacy. The key word here is legacy. What is a legacy? Well, a legacy is something transmitted by or received from an ancestor, a predecessor, or from the past. A legacy is what we receive from people who came before us. It's the heritage, the baggage that they leave behind. So the Chinese philosopher is saying that when your life is long and creative, you have the opportunity to leave a legacy, a baggage behind you. And I think in his mind he was thinking of a positive legacy. Now I asked myself, how many types of legacies do we have? You have all of them there on the screen. You have a legacy of peace. These are things that are left behind even by presidents, by heads of states, by kings, and by people. There are some people on earth who left a legacy of peace. Others left a legacy of prosperity. You can leave a legacy of love, a legacy of hope, a legacy of malady. Talk about the sicknesses that we get along the way and that we give to our children, our offspring. We can leave a legacy of war, a legacy of misery, a legacy of corruption, a legacy of moral defect. A legacy can be spiritual, intellectual, educational, physical, emotional, material, financial, philosophical, ethical, moral. For example, I cannot explain everything here. I may just maybe pick this one, intellectual. Sometimes you see that a father, all that he will leave to his offspring is a library. He is telling them, children, what matters most is to learn. Some other people, they leave money, a lot of money. They don't care about books. So whatever we do, we leave something behind, either good or bad. So that's why I say that a legacy is unavoidable. Whether we like it or not, the way we are living is leaving behind us a heritage, a baggage. If I am not a prayerful mother, I am teaching my children that prayer is not important. I am leaving them a prayerless legacy. Whatever I do, if I am not the praise person, I never sing songs of praise at home. I am just telling my offspring that singing praises to God is not important. If I spend my money on cars and housing and on many other things, I am telling my children that what matters most is material things. Whatever we do, we are leaving a legacy. That's why I insist that a legacy is unavoidable. It is good or bad. It is positive or negative. It is leaders initiated, meaning that it is the one who is the eldest who is leaving a legacy to the youngest. It is biblical, it is transitional, it is intentional, it is transgenerational, meaning it is passed on from generation to generation. Some of us can look back to our grandfather and tell the story of what they left us, even though we never met them. So I understand that a leadership without a godly legacy is an insult to God, a disservice to humankind, and a disgrace to self. In other words, a leadership with a godly legacy is an honor to God, a blessing to humankind, and an honor to self. In other words, what I'm saying here is that you better be intentional in leaving a godly legacy to your offspring. Because if you're not leaving a godly legacy to your offspring, you are leaving something else behind. Maurice Thiesch, our French author, wrote, "When a father realizes the scope of what is expected of him, and if he really wants to play his part and fulfill his mission, he cannot but ask why God did not give him greater intelligence." Hello? I used to illustrate this way. You see, you are the father at home. It is 10 p.m. Everybody is in his bedroom, getting ready to sleep. Now, as the father, you are in your bedroom, on your bed, and your first child is in his or her bedroom thinking, tomorrow morning, first thing, I go to Papa, I need a new pair of shoes. You are on your bed. And your second child is thinking, maybe a girl, tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I must go to Papa and tell him I need a new dress. And your third child is also there thinking like that. And your wife is also thinking, in the morning when he wakes up, these are my necessities. And if you think of it that way, then you realize how big a responsibility it is to be a father. That all these people are counting on you, and sometimes you don't even have money. Walang pera. You don't know where you will get that money, but everybody in the morning comes, Papa, sweetheart, give me this. And they have that faith in you. That is why this statement is very important. When we realize as fathers how much expectations are on us, then we will go to our knees and plead with God to give us strength and wisdom. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you become rich and a billionaire, your children will have billionaires' needs. If you are poor, your child will ask you, can I have one pair of shoes? Even at yukai. But when you become a billionaire, your child will say, I need a new private jet. Hello? There is no amount of money, there is no amount of belongings, there is no amount of intelligence that can qualify us to be godly fathers and leave a godly legacy. That's why the aspect that I'm interested in is ask why God. You go on your knees and you say, Lord, this is simply not possible. And I want to commend the fathers who have been doing this year after year. And I want to chip in this. Remember, I told you that my father divorced my mother. And when I talk about my family, don't get me wrong, I don't have any resentment against my father. But it's reality, and I'm using it to help you understand certain things. When I got to high school, I had a hard time in school, not because I was dumb, because I had so many distractions, and I think if my father was there, things would have been different. You see, the last class, the last grade before going to college, we in our country have to pass a national exam. So you take 9 months, you go to school every day from Monday to Friday. You take between 13 and 15 subjects, literally. French, Spanish, German, math, all kinds of subjects, 13 to 15. After 9 months, you go to the national exam. All the people from the same level in the whole country, they take the same exam. And those who pass are those who have a GPA, a general GPA of 10.00. That is, when they have summed up all the grades of all the 15 subjects, you need to have 10. If you don't have 10, you know what happens to you? You go back and you start all over again with the 15 subjects. You take the exam, you fail, you go back until you make it. I did it 4 times. I have a friend who did it 10 times. And I have some friends who are still doing it. So it reached a point, I don't have time to give you more details. It reached a point, even at church, things were so bad in my life that somebody, a lady from the women ministry, voiced, and I heard the voice, and I remember she said, "This boy must be cursed." It was very painful. To cut the long story short, what I'm driving at is that when a time came I met a pastor. He taught me a lesson. He said, "Christian, if you have offended your father or any male figure, I bet you go and ask for forgiveness and give that person a gift according to your means." I was conducting a crusade. I was not a pastor yet. I was a young man. And that pastor, we usually have meetings after each evening. You remember the meetings we have after the crusade. Let's come and meet and talk. What went wrong? What was okay? He said something in public. It offended me. So the next morning, I called him in the room. I said, "Hey, I need you to forgive me." But he told me, when you ask forgiveness, tell the person to bless you. To do what? So I asked him to bless me. And he blessed me. And 4 pastors blessed me. From that time, my life has not been the same. Why am I saying this? Just imagine 1 minute that you go to your father. I'm talking to children. All the fathers, their ears are closed. You go to your father 6 a.m. in the morning and you tell your father, "Daddy, this morning I have come to thank you because you did this, 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 and this. Daddy, can you bless me?" Do you think if he loves you, he will not bless you? And that blessing will guide you. The point is that the blessing that we need, the legacy that we need, has stages. What? Stages. There is what I call the general blessing. The general blessing is what the Bible calls by saying, "He makes his sun to rise on the righteous and on the wicked." When the sun rises, does the sun choose the house of the righteous? When it rains, does the rain choose the farm of the righteous? Even typhoon, righteous and unrighteous, all of them. That's a general thing that everybody gets. That's what the common people live under, the kind of blessing. There is another type of blessing. That is the blessing that comes from your father, and the blessing that comes from your pastor, and the blessing that comes from God. Some of us, I am operating under 3 of the blessings. I couldn't get my father's blessing, but I got the pastoral blessing, and I tell you, it is sweet. So children, take time and seek your father's blessing. Hello? Now, something happened in Israel. Moses assigned 12 men to Canaan to spy the land. How many men? Among them was one from the tribe of Ephraim. This is in Numbers 13, 1 to 17. His name was Hoshea, the son of Nun. The Bible says that Moses called him Joshua. You know Joshua. When they came back, something really bad happened. 10 out of the 12 spies gave a bad report. They said, this land is unconquerable. But Joshua insisted. And the Bible says that all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept all night. Imagine 2 million people crying at night in the desert, crying like babies. But the Bible tells me that Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. But Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, remained alive, of the men who went to spy out the land. In other words, Joshua was among the 2 faithful who traveled all the way from Egypt to Canaan. There is no other person except Caleb who had that privilege, not even Moses. So we are talking about a great man. At a point then, Joshua had to die. He knew he was about to die. And he called all Israel. And he said, if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourself this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. This is where I took the title for today's message from. Me and my house. But I would like to point out at something. You see, Joshua is about to die. He was 110 years old, and he tells the children of Israel, choose whom you want to serve, the gods on the other side of the river or the gods of the Amorites. Let me break this down. Where was the other side of the river? In Egypt, right? Are you following? So let's say that Egypt is here. After Egypt, Israel crossed the Sea of Reeds. After the Sea of Reeds, they crossed the wilderness. After the wilderness, they crossed the Jordan. And after Jordan, they went to Canaan. So Egypt, Red Sea, wilderness, Jordan, Canaan. And this passage is spoken where? In Canaan. And Joshua is saying, choose the God you want to serve. Whether, church, listen, whether the God that your father served in Egypt or the God of the Amorites that you added in Canaan. I want you to get the point that Joshua is making. Church, This means that the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea with idols in their bags. And they crossed Jordan with idols in their bags. And they reached Canaan and they adopted other gods. That's the power of this statement. Joshua said, I came from Egypt, I had no other God. I crossed the Red Sea, I had no other God. I crossed the wilderness, I had no other God. I crossed the Jordan, I had no other God. I lived in Canaan, I had no other God. I am about to die, I have no other God. But you, Israel, choose today. It is enough that you've been serving those many gods. And God, the God of Israel, choose whom you will serve. As for me and my house. I can imagine Joshua saying, sweetheart, you know where we come from. We don't know any other God. I am dying. We stick to God. I can imagine Joshua talking to his children. We stick to God no matter what. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua. Talk about a legacy. That even after he died, his influence was felt among the people. He is known as a mighty warrior, as a general, as a prime minister, as a leader in Israel. He was a hero of faith. But what Joshua was first and foremost was a father. Hello? You know, I don't know if I were Joshua and I knew I'm about to die. And this is my last message. What will I tell the people of God? Oh, you remember when we crossed the Red Sea, I was in front of you. You remember, I am the one who went on the top of the mountain with Moses. No one of you saw God as I saw him so close like Moses. I walked with Moses. I did this, I did that. Let me contextualize. You know, son, this church was nothing until I came. When I came, the building started being erected. You see, every bench here, I know it because I gave my money, I gave my resources. I can tell you, my son, that this church is standing here today because of me. I could have said that, said Joshua. Joshua said no. What am I going to leave the people behind with? My exploits or God? And Joshua chose God. But he was first and foremost a father. And from that verse, as for me and my house, you see a family person. These are his last words. He's thinking about his family. He's about to die. He thinks me and my house. My house is who? My wife and my children. And maybe those who work for me, the ates and the kuyas who work in the house. I am leaving them with a legacy. Joshua had this inbuilt paternal fiber that led Ellen White to say that he was fatherly with those under his care. You cannot be a good church leader if you're not a good father. It is not possible. That is why even in the Bible, one of the criteria to become a church leader is to hold your house in God. So I understood that Joshua actually left a legacy of service to his family, his nation, and to history. What legacy are you leaving behind, Father? What will you be remembered for? As the daddy who was able to buy us everything that we asked for in SM, but never bought us a Bible? Hello? Hello? As the daddy who went with us to every swimming pool, every resort. We had so much fun with Dad, but he was always late at church. Hello? As the daddy who could bring us to every touristic area across Asia, but who was never able to teach us the Word of God. Hello? What will you be remembered for? Joshua left a legacy of service. Service to God. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He's telling his wife, he's telling his children, and he's telling the Israelite, after all that I have seen, I saw the 10 plagues in Egypt. I saw the Red Sea part into two. I saw the Red Sea closing on the Egyptians. I saw manna falling from heaven. I saw water gushing from the rock. I saw God's deliverance time after time in the wilderness. I saw Jordan being divided in two as we crossed it. I saw all these things. But what I want you to remember from me is that you must serve God. It doesn't matter how many times God has performed miracles in your life before. It is not about the miracles. It is about the God of the miracles. It doesn't matter how much money you made, how many cars you bought, how many mansions you built, how many times you went on vacation with your family, how many clothes you bought. What matters is, son, daughter, sweetheart, we must serve the Lord. You remember when they crossed the Jordan, God told the Israelites, when you go and attack Jericho, you save Rahab, the prostitute, but don't take the gold, the silver that is in there. You remember the story? By all means, abstain from the accursed things. Is it a difficult command? Is it something impossible to understand? Don't take. Leave it. Well, the children of Israel, says the Bible in Joshua 7, committed a trespass regarding the accursed thing. For, what is the name there? Achan. I want you to look. You see, when the Bible writers put words, you have to take time and think. We don't know Achan aside from this story. He comes into play there because he played a major role in Israel's history. Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took the accursed thing. Why doesn't the Bible writer simply say Achan? But he says the son of. You see the family? How important? The son of. You must be identified by your family and by your lineage. He comes from that family. And I am suspecting that if we go back to the roots of his family, we will see that the behavior he displayed runs through the family. So Joshua arose early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribe. And the tribe of Judah was taken. He brought the clan of Judah, the family of the Zarhite, the family of the Zarhite, man by man, and his household, man by man, and Achan. Now this is what happened. Joshua came and he called all the children of Israel. He said, who took the accursed thing? Silence in the crowd. Then he said, okay, let's segregate. He went to the tribes, and only the tribe of Judah was left. Hey, any among you took the accursed things? Silence. Okay, let's go by clan. Then the clan of Achan was chosen. Any one of you who took the accursed things? Silence. Okay, let's go by family, by man or household, until they ended up with who? Achan, standing alone. And Joshua asked again, who took the accursed thing? That is the only time when Achan said, okay, now I cannot hide anymore. Then he confessed, oh Joshua, you know it's me. Actually what happened is like this, like this, like this, like this. Now Joshua said to Achan, what are the two first words? My son. What a father. I don't know if I was him. You know, people died because of that guy. As the leader, I don't know what I would have done. Maybe straight away I would disfellowship him. He said, my son, why have you done this? My interest is this. Joshua said, why have you troubled us? The Lord will trouble you this day. Let's read together. Church, let's read. So, let's go. So, all Israel stoned him with stones, and they burned them with fire, and they have stoned them with stones. They stoned him. Who is him? Achan. They burned them. Who is them? Achan is saying, as for me and my family, we will serve other gods. We will serve money. We will serve Pera. You see, fathers, I brought these two examples to let you know that the blessing upon your family or the curse on your family depends on your attitude towards God. Hello? Some of our children will never succeed in life because we, the fathers, did not show them the way to life. And some of us, our children, are just blessed because somewhere along the line the father said, I want God, the God of heaven, to be the God of my family. Achan is Joshua's antithesis. He left a legacy of woe to his family, his nation, and to history. One of the greatest advantages given to majority of children is to have a caring father and a loving mother. Both parents are indispensable for a balanced education. The father must be present at home. A true, complete, and active family exists only when both parents are there. I told you I was raised by my mother only. I used to tell my friend the feeling that it gives you. You see, when a woman all of a sudden loses her husband, the tendency is that because of the love she has for the children, she will start behaving like the man. Hello? So I tell my friends, my mother was so busy trying to be my father that she ended up not really being my mother and not even being my father because she cannot do both. I'm not blaming her. She did her best. By the way, I think the person I am today, a lot can be attributed to my mother. She doesn't speak much. But you see, my mother did one of a few things when I was younger. She bought books. And she put them, very expensive books, all kinds of topics, all kinds, elder, all kinds, even all kinds of books. And she left them at the house. She never asked me to read. But you know what I did? When everybody was not around, I took the book and I read. When I went to school, oh, the brain was sharp. These are one or two things that my mother did for me. But I believe that if my father was also there, the story might have been different. By the way, I had a very hard time after my conversion to call God my father. I couldn't say father, but now I say it because he had shown me how fatherly he is. So the point I'm making is that fathers, you are important. Ellen White says, I speak to fathers and mothers. You can be educators in your home churches. The home is a church. You can be spiritual missionary agencies. Let fathers and mothers feel the need of being home missionaries, the need of keeping the home atmosphere free from the influence of unkind and hasty speech, and the home school, a place where angels of God can come in and bless and give success to the efforts put forth. Consider the family institution a training school preparatory for the performance of religious duties. Your children are to act a part in church capacity, and every power of the mind, every physical capacity is to be kept strong and active for the service of Christ. Every power of the mind. You remember yesterday I insisted that God has given us as a church, as Bible believers, the opportunity to become so many things in life. But the world is telling us you can only be a teacher or a doctor or a dentist. Hello? But for you to raise such children, Father, you need to be yourself someone who is connected to God, someone who can discern what potential the child has, and who can put in the necessary resources so that the child will grow. I pity those children who grow in families where they speak only one language. Hello? I can speak 3 or 5 languages and read 10 at least, because I was exposed to that since my childhood. One day, one of my goals is to preach one sermon in Tagalog. The day I do that, I will celebrate. Some of your children, they are gifted in music. They are gifted even in sports and physical activities. Look at them critically, prayerfully, and ask God, dear Father, what can I do to help my son or my daughter develop his or her full potential in you? By the time your child leaves home at 20, or I don't know at what age, you should look at your child and say, I have done my best. I have fought the good fight. I can let you go in the world without any fear because I have trained you well. But if you encourage your child to be lazy, everything you do for him or her. I told you the other day, the girl who came, a university girl in my office, crying because she cannot process her own application. She doesn't know where to start. Why? Papa did it for me since I was in kindergarten. In the home school of the redeemed, a fatherless home is a handicapped home. Now, I understand that like me, some of you don't have your father at home. And don't blame yourself for that. Or some of you have your father at home, but he seems not to care. There are things you cannot help, you cannot solve. But vow, like I did, that the day I start my home, there are things that my father did I will not do. At least I learned from my father that alcohol is a bad thing. I hate alcohol. It destroyed him. It killed him. I can tell you, I hate divorce because I know what it does to the family. I saw what it did to my mother. At least I learned from that. So learn from the mistakes of your father and do better. Not like the boy I told you who was separating his parents when they were fighting, but when he started his own home, he started beating his own wife like Papa was beating his mama. But for those of you who have both your father and your mother, you ought to thank God every day just for that. You have no idea the blessing you have. And if on top of it, they are caring and loving and they try their best, you should be ashamed to complain to God. Because I walk downtown Manila and I see those kids like in my country sleeping on the street. And you complain because they give you rice every day. You complain because they don't buy you shoes like the other father. You complain because your mother doesn't give you the dress that you like because she doesn't have the money. Come on, my son, my child, my daughter. Be grateful if you have both of your parents with you. Amen? I will end with this question. Any tips for effective fathering? Very practical. Yes, for sure. First thing, if you want to be a successful father, you must learn to enjoy an ever-growing and deepening intimate relationship with Jesus. That's the first criterion. You must have a strong relationship with Christ. Second thing, you must enjoy an ever-growing and deepening intimate relationship with your only beloved wife. Hello? Only her. Hello? I was shocked when I arrived here at first. I thought it's only in my country that we have infidelity. I thought all the Filipinos are faithful husbands. Until I started listening to them. I said, "Whoa, you do this also." So please, you see, successful fatherhood does not start with childbirth. It starts with your relationship with God. Then it goes to your relationship with your wife. And third, enjoy an ever-growing, deepening, intimate relationship with each of your beloved children. With each of your beloved. Each. Don't play favorites. Don't play favorites. And then enjoy an ever-growing and deepening intimate relationship with the brethren. The mga kapatid. You love them all. Is there anything more? Yes. What's more than that? 8 B's for successful fathering. Number 1, be a friend of your children and not their buddy. Hello? Your son is your friend. He's not your buddy. Some fathers, they dress like their children just because they want to look like their friends. You are not their buddy. Hello? You don't speak like them, but you are their friend. It's a different thing. Be reasonably ambitious for each of your children. Some of us parents, we set so high expectations sometimes to our kids, and they end up very sad. Some commit suicide because they did not reach their father's expectation. You must make it to UP. But I said UP. I remember this story in my country, a colonel in the army. He had power, he had money. So he bribed his child education from kindergarten to university. The child was failing, the boy, he was failing. When he failed, he goes to the teacher, he gives money. You don't do it here, right? We don't do it in the Philippines here. We don't do that. In my country, some people, they do it. We don't do it. We Filipinos, we don't do that. So the child will be passed, then from elementary, high school, like that. Even the exam I talked to you about that I took 4 times, he would just pay. And he wanted him to be a doctor. So he sent him to medical school and he paid. Every year he paid the teachers. And the son would pass. So the son graduated from medical school. And that day there was a party in the house because the father's dream had come true. Nobody knew how he went there. So during the party, everybody was enjoying, dancing. All of a sudden, the father had a heart attack. and he fell. And everybody runs to the father. Oh, what do we do? What do we do? And as people were trying to help, somebody just blurted, hey, but his son just graduated. And the father said, please bring me to the hospital. Why? He doesn't want his own son to touch him. Why? He knows that he's a fake medical doctor. Be reasonably ambitious for each of your children. Your kids are different. They don't have the same ability. And sometimes we parents, we like comparing. When one is sharp in math, we say, you see your brother? He's really good at math. And don't you see that? What are you telling the other boy? You better be good at math also. But he may not be. Third thing, be affectionate and firm with each family member. God is both compassionate and just at the same time. Many of us parents, especially fathers, we tend to lean either towards affection too much or towards firmness too much. You must learn how to blend the two. And the only person who can teach you to do that is the expert, God. Be authoritative, not authoritarian or lenient. As I told you, there are some fathers, when you look at them with their children, it's like fathers, obey your children. And I bet you, if you have time, read the story of Eli in Ellen White, the judge in Israel at the time of Samuel, what his sons were doing in the temple because the father was lenient, laxist. Be knowledgeable about each family member, and I will explain this later in the last verse. Be a faithful provider for the needs of each. Each of your child has needs, various needs. We learned it the other day. Spiritual, physical, intellectual, social. Send them to school. Be genuine in attitude and not holier than thou. Be a model of Christian virtue and life. We started off like this. This is the summary of all that I've said so far. And now we are here. You see that? We learned about husband and wife. Now father, son, mother, son, or daughter, yesterday. These are a few verses I'd like to conclude with. Then we pray. These are the last verses of the Old Testament. Today the church wants revival and reformation. It's everywhere. Is it happening? I don't know. Maybe we should look at this model. The last verses of the Old Testament. What do they say? Forgive me, Narito aking susugin sa inyo si Elias na propeta bago dumating ang dakila at kakila-kilabot na kaarawang ng Panginoon at kaniyang papagbabaliking loob ang puso ng mag-aama sa mag-aanak at ang puso ng mag-aanak sa kanilang mag-amagulan. In other words, revival and reformation cannot take place unless it starts in the home. Elijah is the prophet before God, the forerunner of Christ, John the Baptist, the one who announces the revival. And he says when Elijah comes, he will turn the hearts of who? The fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to the father. In other words, you can preach revival and reformation in the church for 100 years. If it doesn't happen in the home between father and children, it won't happen in the church. That's what the verse says. And what is stealing away the hearts of the fathers from their children? Work. Hello? We are so busy. Sometimes ministry. We are so busy, we don't have time for them. And some of the friends of our children are stealing them away from us. The TV, the internet, all these things around, the distractions. And the fathers and the children are so far. But I'm glad that I read this verse in 2 Timothy 1:1-4. Paul says, Paul to Timothy, my beloved son. Timothy was not the biological son of Paul. And he says, without ceasing, I remember you in my prayers night and day. Any father who can say that to his child today in this church? Greatly desiring to see you. I want to see you, my son. I want to see you, my daughter. Being mindful of your tears. How many of you fathers know the tears of your children? When I was a chaplain, a very strange thing used to happen. You see this student, he will do something very bad in school. We'll call the father. We'll tell the father, look, your son, sometimes it's the church elder. Elder, this is what your child did in school. And the father will say, my son cannot do this. You call the mother, this is what your daughter did. The mother will say, my daughter can never do something like that. And they start blaming the pastor or the chaplain that you are making stories. Then I realized, I understood one thing, that some children today have become experts in being angels at home and demons in school. Hello? Do you know what bothers your child? I have heard children, high school kids, college students coming to me, pastor's children, you have no idea. A pastor child will come and tell me, Pastor, I smoke, I am on drugs, my father doesn't know. And I've been doing it for years, he doesn't know. How can that happen? You see, your girl has been raped, you don't even know. Your child is suicidal, you don't know. You don't know what makes your child happy or sad. You are so busy buying stuff, working hard to make his life comfortable, that you may forget that what he needs most is you and your guidance. So as we wrap up, remember what Joshua said. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. May God bless his word. Amen.